Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So for the past 2 seasons of Ninjago, I've done ranking updates in which I placed Season 9 and Season 10 in my rankings. But it's been nearly a year since I last did my video on ranking the seasons, and my opinions have drastically changed. In fact, in the last video, I was heavily influenced by the recent season, which is why I put Sons of Garmadon as my favorite last time. But yeah, my opinions have changed since then. So I want to talk about ranking all the seasons of Ninjago from worst to best, every installment including Day of the Departed and the pilots. And yeah, so that's about all. Let's get started, guys. Day of the Departed really could have been great. Unfortunately, execution just killed it. 44 minutes was far too short of a time to bring back many ancient villains or old villains from the TV series and just pit them against the ninja. And unfortunately for the writers, it did not work. It felt very rushed, and some of the endings to fights were terrible. Namely, the Cryptor versus Zane one, which was, oh my god, the dumbest thing I've ever seen from Ninjago. Cool storyline also felt forced and just an excuse to kind of turn him back into a human. And to be honest, I don't think I would have minded him staying as a ghost for longer. It just felt like they were trying to get him back into a human, and this was an easy way to do it. Learning about Yang was cool, but in the end, Yang is still a one-sided villain, and we just don't really know that much about his character, and you just can't really relate with his quest to become known or go down in history. It's just something you can't really relate to at all. This is not a focus season for Cole. It's very underwhelming, and sadly, it's kind of disappointing that we have never gotten the real Cole season that we deserve. Hands of Time suffered the same problems as Day of the Departed. It could have been an amazing season. It had so much potential. The idea of the Time Twins is genius, and it was meant to explore the secrets behind Rei and Maya. But unfortunately, like Day of the Departed, they kind of shot themselves in the foot with this one. Execution was just really poor, and in the end, we kind of got a season that was pretty forgettable in my opinion. The Vermilion are an extremely repetitive concept. I don't think the concept is bad necessarily, but having stakes back again for the third time was certainly repetitive, and poor execution certainly didn't help this one. The Time Twins themselves are not bad characters, but they lack good motivation that kind of makes them stronger characters, and that is what they kind of lack. Rei and Maya's storyline at the end was also a little bit underwhelming, although I didn't really have a problem with that one. Although I will say the finale for this season was simply amazing and really blew me away. But other than that, this season does feel pretty forgettable to me. Unlike the other 2 seasons, Rebooted had the exact opposite problem for me. It had great execution, but a mediocre plot for me. This season is generally a very popular season among the community, but not for me. And while I agree that it is miles better than the previous 2 seasons, I just don't think that it was that interesting in terms of plot. It was essentially a reboot for Ninjago as stated by the season's name, following the season's original supposed end. And I just don't really feel like it had too much of the charm that made the original 2 seasons great. It kind of lacked that humor and such. I agree that the Overlord returning was pretty good. I mean, we definitely needed him to return some more. And the Golden Master arc was just done amazing. Also, Zane's death. That episode is still my second favorite episode of all time. Just done wonderfully, and it is an amazing episode, but unfortunately, it can't bring up the rest of the season with it. I just feel like this season could have used a better plot, and it felt a bit too repetitive for me. March of the Oni isn't that much better than Rebooted. In fact, I'd say they are actually pretty close. The biggest problem with March of the Oni is that it was way too short, and had it been at least 6 episodes, I think, this season would have been great. My biggest problem is that the Oni were essentially built up to be these crazy, demonic monsters, but in the end, we got some guys who were pretty much killed by the Tornado of Creation, and that's all we really got from the season. However, the reason I placed this season higher above Rebooted is it's not all for gimmicks and shows. This season actually has a lot of meaning to it, and I did a video on that last weekend, but it has a lot of meaning, a lot of different themes, and I think this season does Garmadon's character amazingly as an individual who is questioning who he is, and that is essentially what I really love about this season. Omega is a cool character as a villain, but he just kind of lacks anything more than that, and that's how I kind of feel about the Oni as a whole, which is essentially why this season is this low on the list. Every show has its start, and Ninjago definitely left off a good first impression with the viewers. The pilots are essentially prequels for the rest of the series. They show the formation of the ninja team, while also introducing the original antagonist of the series, who is Lord Garmadon, at least for the original series. But anyways, moving on from that, I think the quest of how the ninja got their golden weapons and how they formed a team is really cool, and it was great to actually see this animated. And for someone who would start the show, I started the show on season 1, and for someone who did that, seeing the pilots was great because it gave a lot of much needed history and backstory, and I think that was great. It was also really cool to see Garmadon, who actually, in this season or pilot, or 2 episodes, he was actually amazing, just like March of the Oni, but in a different way. Very mysterious, very cunning, and we got to see a nice hint at the amazing character that would come in the future. I love Rise of the Snakes because it doesn't focus on one character, it focuses on every single character, and as such, being the first season of the show, it really gets us connected to the ninja that we all know and love, while also having a lot of different plots and stuff. The overlying plot, of course, is the Great Devourer, and I thought that was done really well. The Serpentine are still a really cool tribe, and there's so much we have yet to learn about them. Still, there's just endless possibilities with them. And Garmadon's role in the season was also pretty cool. I liked his return and the cliffhanger with them at the end. And, the true potentials, there's a lot of meaning behind them. Finding out who you really are, accepting who you really are. And I think that it was all, for the most part, done great. Especially Zane's big reveal being a robot. That is still, I think, the best plot twist in all of Ninjago. I don't think anyone really could have seen it coming at all. And I think it was done perfectly. The season had plenty of plot twists and really opened the door to the next season. Many people rank Season 2 Legacy of the Green Ninja pretty low on their list, mainly due to the filler episodes. And while I agree that the filler episodes are not the best, I still like them as individual episodes, but I can understand why people don't like them too. They are a bunch of random thoughts that are kind of stringed together by the theme of Lloyd's training, and unfortunately, it just doesn't really connect. However, the second arc of the season, the Dark Island arc, I was about to say Dark Island Trilogy, but no, that's something else. And yeah, that is pretty much, I think that's arguably one of Ninjago's best stories or arcs yet. It's just amazing, and I think if not for the filler episodes, this season might be my all-time favorite Ninjago season. It does a great job of, tying together the prophecy of the Green Ninja as well as the Overlord's prophecy. And this is essentially what the entire show had been leading up to, and it really doesn't let down in any way. I loved seeing the Overlord and Garmadon team up, who are essentially the main antagonists of this season. We have the original antagonist as well as the Ultimate Evil now teaming up together, and, their team-up duo was great. And, of course, the final 2 battles in episodes 25 and 26 just don't fail to disappoint in any way. They have amazing scoring, and they just feel, it's a culmination. It's what everything at this point had been leading up to, and it is just it was a great original finale. So now we're going to make the leap from good seasons to great seasons, and it all starts off with Season 5, Possession. Up until Season 8, the show wasn't really dark, it was still a kid's show, but Season 5 was that first step into a darker tone, with the introduction of the ghosts and the possession and all that kind of stuff. Moro is a fan-favorite character and a very popular character, and I agree with all of this. He's a great villain as well as a great character. And I think what makes him this way is the emotional side of him, and the jealousy, and his determination to become the Green Ninja, and ultimately that fails for him. And I think that's what makes him a great character. The season also made Nia a ninja, which might not necessarily be the best choice, but let's face it, we all knew that Nia would become a ninja one day. She wasn't going to be Samurai X forever. I like this season's focus on Lloyd, you could argue, or Nia, but I think it's Lloyd. And I think that was pretty cool, and this season did a lot. It kind of didn't really have a focus, and it had development for every character, including Cole, who was turned into a ghost in this season, and I thought that was really unexpected as well done. Mora's death in the end was a great finale for an amazing character, and all in all, this season served one main purpose, I think. Its main purpose was essentially to kill off Garmadon and say goodbye to Garmadon from the series, and it did it great, even if that was reversed in another season. Kind of like Rebooted, Sons of Garmadon was a new start for the series, but even more of a fresh start than Rebooted. But I think the difference with this was that it did retain some of the original charm. It did retain a lot of the original charm from seasons past, and I think that's great. What's great about it. However, this season is also not scared to take a step in a different direction, making it more dark and more of a serious show, and I think that's what I love about this season. While the plot is a bit generic and the classic fill-in-the-blanks plot for Ninjago, the characters of the season just really shine, especially Harumi, who is a great villain, and I think just her entire development through the season is really unexpected, as well as who she is. Garmadon coming back later on in the season is also really cool, and it's so cool to see him back, but I don't think he's the best in Season 8, although he definitely improves in Season 9 by a lot, and Season 10 also helps that too. But in the end, what I love about this season is that it ended on a cliffhanger. The villain actually won. And that was definitely something different for Ninjago, and something different in a good way for sure. This is probably going to be a controversial pick for some, but in third place I have Season 6, Skybound. So let's just get away with the bad stuff first. The first arc of the season, the prison arc and stuff, was utterly useless and quite unnecessary, as well as kind of boring. It just kind of had you waiting for the good part, because the good part of the season was coming, but you had to wait through this first. It was kind of like a commercial break of sorts. But then came the good part of the season, and I gotta say, the good part really was great, especially the last 3 episodes. The last 3 episodes of the season, especially the finale, are just phenomenal in nearly every way. Narcon is such a cool villain. He's a lot like Pythor in some ways. He's very charismatic and very charming, and I think that's what's great about his character, but at the same time, very intimidating. And yeah, I also love the exploration of mythology in the season with Narcon and the Jinns, and I thought that was very cool. He just looks awesome, and Narcon as a whole, as a character, really is awesome. The Jay and Nia story in this season was also pretty cool, and I like getting more development on this story, having seen the reflection in the prior season, in the previous season, and having known that Jaya would be a thing from really the start of the series. All in all, this season had kind of a commercial break at the beginning, but after the commercial break always comes the good stuff, so I think that was definitely done well in this season. In the runner-up position, we have Season 9, Hunted, and like most trilogies, the middle one, at least in my opinion, is often the best, and this is definitely true for Hunted in the Oni trilogy. Hunted was different because it had 2 different storylines completely separate of each other, and in the end, these storylines actually weren't too separate of each other. There was the recurring trend of the Oni, which was some great foreshadowing for the next season, and all in all, I feel like both of these storylines were very fun to watch. It was really cool to see Wu regaining his memories and becoming the Golden Dragon Master, and I think in the end, what I love about the season is, just like Skybound, the last 3 episodes. Last 3 episodes are simply phenomenal, and have so much emotion. You got victory, you get sadness, you have so much emotion just in these last 2 episodes, and I think that's what's great about them, as well as some epic fights. I love Skylar versus Garmadon, as well as Wu becoming the Golden Dragon Master. The return to Ninjago and the final stand against Garmadon are all amazing battles and such, and I just feel like Hunted really does that amazingly, and I think that's why I love Hunted so much. It just feels very epic to me. There's just so much emotion when you're watching it. Just, I think that's what I really love about this season. Tournament of Elements has got to be my favorite season. It is just such a complex season, and this is what Ninjago seasons nowadays kind of are missing. There's just so much going on, and each plot ties flawlessly in with each other. You have so many plots going on, like the Wu Misako Garmadon love triangle, the Anaconda story, the actual Tournament of Elements, Nia going undercover as a spy, the Serpentine Wars, and just so much more I can list off the top of my head, and I feel like that's what's great about it. I also love Chen as a villain. He has a sense of humor, and he's very funny, just for the viewer, but at the same time very cunning and a serious villain, too. So I think that's just done wonderfully about him. I loved seeing, again, with Possession, and the same with March of the Oni and Season 1, every character had a role, and every character had development in some way. You didn't have one focus character, and I do prefer non-focus character seasons over focus character seasons. And every character had a role and got to do something. Garmadon also plays a bigger role in the season, and this is essentially a goodbye to Garmadon, except he returns later in Season 5 and is later resurrected, but this was going to be kind of a goodbye to Garmadon. And I think this season just does everything really flawlessly. It introduces new elemental masters, plenty of new characters, and at the same time, it also explores an old concept, the Anaconda, the Serpentine Wars. It's just a fabulous season. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone ever you know, and let me know what you guys think of my rankings, as well as leaving your own rankings down in the comment section below. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.